Good Tuesday, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about human adaptations to physical environments, okay? That's going to cover your Ohio State Standard Geography strand, your topic, places, and regions. So, at the end of today's class, these are the questions you'll be able to answer. We already talked about some of that stuff yesterday. So, the words to know is adapt, to adjust to a new or different condition. Physical, part of the human environment that includes only physical factors such as land, climate, and water supply. And hazard is a danger or a risk. So let's take a look at some hazards in the United States, okay? So weather-related hazards would include hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. Earthquakes are caused by shifting of the earth. I'm pretty sure everybody understands that. If we look at the map on the next slide, we can take a look at it and see that not every area in the United States is prone to the same hazards, meaning not everything is going to happen all across the United States. So if we look at this map, we can see here that this is Tornado Alley. Right through here, most tornadoes happen here. But we also can get tornadoes into the whole entire red area, right? Hurricanes only occur on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean. Usually hurricanes can hit Hawaii also, and they can also hit sometimes over here, but it's very, 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 very rare. Most likely you're not getting a hurricane on the West Coast, okay? But you can get tsunamis on both coasts, meaning a big tidal wave, right? Earthquakes over here, wildfire, volcanoes. So you can see that there are lots of hazards in the United States, and not everything happens to every place, right? Up here in Minnesota, you're not going to get hit with a hurricane because you don't have an ocean there, right? But at the same time, in Maine, you're not going to get an earthquake because there's no fault lines over there. So it's all about where you live and what hazards there are, okay? And Florida's not going to get hit with a blizzard, right? No. So those are the hazards in the United States, and not every place gets hit with all like the same hazards. That's the thing to keep in mind. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about some of these disasters. Most of these you already know. I don't think I need to go over what a tornado is. Pretty sure everybody knows that a tornado is a rapidly rotating column of air, and it causes devastation, right? It can destroy homes, buildings, anything else in their path if it wants to. Best way to prepare for a tornado is to seek shelter, right? We want to get into the basement. Maybe some of your great grandparents had some of these cellars outside their house. Maybe your house has one of these. It's a storm cellar, right? It's a way to get into the basement and to get away from a tornado. You want to, if you can't go into the basement, go into an interior wall. Sometimes they say to go into a bathtub and protect yourself, because those are the places where a tornado may not hit. Okay. It takes a lot of force to get inside that interior wall. You want to stay away from windows and exterior walls, meaning walls that are facing the outside. So those are the best things to do whenever you have a tornado coming. Okay. If we look here, we can see what I was talking about. Tornado Alley is pretty much from Texas up to South Dakota. This is where mainly, my goodness, I need coffee, guys. This is where most tornadoes hit when they hit, and they're the strongest tornadoes. So if you live in this area, which we don't, you will get hit with tornadoes with devastating force. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about hurricanes, and we're not talking about the Miami Hurricanes, the football team. We're going to be talking about hurricanes, the weather. Okay, again, it's a massive rotating storm with high wind speeds that form over warm waters in tropical locations. Okay, for the longest time, whenever I was about your age, I thought a hurricane was just a tornado on water, and it is not. A hurricane is not a tornado on water. A hurricane looks like this, and the storm spins, but there isn't a funnel. Okay, so the storm is right there and is a devastating storm, but there isn't a funnel. Hurricanes, high wind, cause excess damage, flooding, all that good stuff. And when you look at hurricanes, there's actually a wind scale. A category 1, you can see here, Maybe it's just blowing the palm tree around just a little bit. Category 2, well, the palm tree is getting blown over just a little bit. There's a little bit of damage to the house. And look at the water level between category 1 and category 2. Category 2 is bringing the water level up a little bit. Category 3, the house is sustaining more damage. That palm tree looks like it's almost going to be gone. And the water level is now up to the house. If we get into category 4, which means the winds are somewhere in the neighborhood of 130 to 156 miles per hour, the palm tree is completely gone. The house has a lot of exterior damage, and the water is completely surrounding the house. Category 5 is the worst type of hurricane there is. You got 157 miles per hour or more. As you can see, everything's gone. The house is gone. The palm tree is gone, and the water is very, very high. Okay, so those are 5 different categories of the hurricane wind scale. I don't expect you guys to know this. I just need you to remember that there's 5 categories. So what do you do when a hurricane comes? Well, when a hurricane comes, you got to prepare, right? So they board up windows, they buy extra supplies, they place sandbags around their house, right? So we need to think about why they might place sandbags around their house. Is to prevent water coming in, right? That's exactly what the reason is. The sand will prevent water from coming in. Not a whole lot of water, or it won't stop all water, but it's going to stop some of the water from coming in. Okay, guys, so now we're going to talk a little bit about earthquakes. All right, so earthquakes is just an intense shaking of the ground caused by 2 pieces of the crust, the Earth's crust moving. I think we know about earthquakes here in Ohio. We don't have to worry about it. They can cause extensive damage to homes and businesses. Imagine if you put something on your desk and you just shook your desk really, really hard. That's kind of what an earthquake simulates, and it can cause a lot of damage. There is a scale for this also. It's called the magnitude scale, which is a Richter scale. Richter scale is what we actually refer it to. A 1.0 to a 1.9, you can't even feel it. 2.0 to 2.9, you look at the bell here, maybe it rings like a little bit. 3.0 to 3.9, then you're talking about a bell moving, just swaying back and forth. If you get up into the 0.0, 4.9 range, then you can see the bell moving pretty good. That's whenever you're going to really start feeling an earthquake. You don't really start getting a lot of damage until you get into about the 6.0, 6.9 range. Cracks can occur in buildings, falling branches. That's whenever you start seeing things falling out of houses and buildings. If you get into a 9.0 or an 8.0 and get up into this area right here, you're talking devastation. You're talking buildings collapsing. You're talking infrastructure collapsing, power lines, all that stuff. They're pretty much collapsing. So this is whenever you start getting into a really, really bad range. Down here is still bad, but you're not looking at a lot of damage. So now we're going to look at some more earthquakes. Again, they have very little warning, okay? It's not like you're able to tell when you can see a tornado coming on the radar. You can see a hurricane coming on the radar. If a giant tidal wave is coming, you can see it, you know it's coming. The earthquakes don't have any warning, okay? So it's literally, it just happens. And you have to prepare yourself for it. So the way you do it is you prepare ahead of time. Instead of dropping cover, you make sure that you have earthquake supplies on hand. You know what your plan is and everything else. So that's how people prepare for earthquakes here in the United States. Where are they most likely to happen? We got a pink right here and a pink down here, but generally speaking, earthquakes don't happen on the eastern part of the United States over here. They generally happen on the West Coast. This is generally where most of your earthquakes occur. Out on the West Coast. And sometimes in Alaska, there are, and that would cause a tsunami. But because the last time an earthquake happened or a volcano exploded in Alaska, it actually dropped so much rock into the Pacific Ocean that it actually caused a tsunami to hit other areas of the world. So just know the West Coast is primarily the place where you're going to get hit with an earthquake. So if we talk about the physical environment, okay, we're going to talk about land. It's just part of the earth that isn't covered in water. Okay. Physical environment, land that isn't covered in water, right? Water is a liquid form. I'm pretty sure we know what water is. Climate, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. Climate is the weather conditions that are in a long time that is an average. I asked you guys yesterday if you could describe Ohio's climate or Ohio's weather, what would it be like? And some of you guys said crazy. Some of you said unpredictable. Some of you said warm in the summer, cold in the winter. And all that is right. But that is the climate, the weather conditions prevailing in an area over a long time. Okay. We are going to talk about how people adapt. Um, this is kind of like a hodgepodge put together spreadsheet here. So I'm going to try to explain this to you. Okay, so that makes it a little bit better. We can see how people adapt. Whenever early settlements, we adapted by making covered wagons, which allowed materials to be moved. Transportation is a way that we adapted, right? As new materials were discovered, railways provided transportation of goods, materials, and people, which sped things up. But as time went on and technology advanced, it allowed for fast transportation as far as like cars, planes, and that type of thing. So that's how we were able to adapt. Okay. Now I'm gonna go over some of these questions coming up. So what I want you to do is I want you to think long and hard as you do them, and then study your quiz study guide. Okay. All right. So did you get it? Which of the following is not a physical system? Mountains, winds, or cars? Your answer there is wind, because of the fact of it is a thing that occurs out in nature that is a physical system of Mother Nature. Which of the following is one of the four climates on Earth? Polar, sunny, and cloudy. That is polar, guys. That is right here, polar, because of the fact of it's neither sunny, it's not sunny or cloudy. That is not a climate. That is just a type of weather. How can topography affect people? It's what plants they can grow. Because of the fact of you're looking at topography is how the land is laid out. So flat land, hills and valleys, soil, all that stuff is part of topography. So it's what plants they can grow on their land. What type of climate does Ohio have? Remember, guys, Ohio has a very, I say, likes to throw temper tantrums with the weather because of the fact of it's cold one day, hot the next, cold the next day. Who knows what's going to happen? It changes every 5 minutes, right? So, like Ohio's weather throws temper tantrums. So that's how I can remember temperate. Okay, so Ohio has temperate climates. And we just went over that. We don't need to ask it again. What is a one way a person who lives in an area prone to hurricanes can prepare for the hazard? Get rid of all the food in the house, take shelter underground, or board up windows in their house. The way you prepare for a hurricane is you board up windows in the house, okay? You never want to take shelter underground for a hurricane because hurricanes provide flood or causes flooding. Flooding, water runs downhill. You do not want to get underground in a hurricane. Okay, so you want to board up the windows in their house. What is one way a person who lives in an area prone to tornadoes can prepare for the hazard? Take the garbage out, take shelter underground, board up windows in their house. Normally, you're going to take shelter underground. Okay, boarding up the windows in their house is usually done with hurricanes. It can be done for a tornado, but you don't usually have time to do that. Okay, tornadoes usually are a tornado is coming. You need to get underground now. A hurricane is, hey, you're going to get hit with a hurricane in about 10 days. So make sure you board up your windows. You have time. But a tornado, you don't. Okay, so you want to get underground as fast as possible. All right, so for your homework today, all I want you to do is read Human Adaptation to Physical Environments in Canvas. You are not required to do the assignments in a reading. Turn in CNN 10 for bonus points. All right, guys. I will see everybody on Thursday.